All right. So have you ever felt like you're just kind of stuck, like hesitant to go after what you really want?
Yeah.
Well, today, we're diving deep into Mel Robbins' book, The 5-Second Rule.
Okay.
And it claims to be like your ticket to bolder action.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack how this thing works, the science behind it, and most importantly, how you can use it to make those like everyday leaps of courage.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready for some surprising stories.
Oh, yeah.
Because this technique has helped people do everything from just waking up on time to making huge career changes. So,
wow. What's really interesting about the 5-second rule is it's like deceptively simple.
Okay.
It's not some, big elaborate self-help scheme or anything.
Right.
It's literally counting down from 5 to 1 and then acting on whatever instinct you've been putting off.
Okay, I got to admit, that sounds a little too easy.
Mm-hmm.
What's like the magic behind a simple countdown?
Well, think about those moments when you know you should do something, right? Like you should speak up in a meeting or go for a run or, finally start that project you've been putting off.
Oh, yeah.
But then that hesitation kicks in and you end up talking yourself out of it.
Yeah.
The 5-second rule works because it interrupts that whole overthinking loop.
So instead of me getting all stuck in my head, I'm like forcing myself to just move.
Exactly. And there's actually like a neurological reason why this is so powerful.
Okay.
That 5-second window, that's like the exact amount of time it takes for your brain to shift gears from that, fear center, the amygdala, over to the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for, decision making and action.
So I'm like hacking my brain to bypass the fear and just go straight to get it done mode.
Yeah, you got it.
I like that.
It's not even just about willpower.
Okay.
It's more about like really understanding how your brain works and using that knowledge to your advantage.
Right.
Mel Robbins uses so many examples in the book. One that really stood out to me was there's this engineer, right? And he used the 5-second rule to finally talk to the CEO at a company event.
Oh, wow.
He was terrified.
Oh, yeah.
But he counted down from 5. He walked right up to the CEO.
Wow.
And, they ended up having a conversation that led to, like, a promotion for him.
Wow.
It's proof that even small actions can have, like, huge ripple effects.
That's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those, like, everyday things that we tend to put off, even though they're not, like, scary? Like, I'll be honest, I'm the queen of hitting the snooze button.
Okay.
Can the 5-second rule, like, actually help me become a morning person?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Mel Robbins actually talks about how she used the 5-second rule to, like, conquer her own snooze button addiction, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, that alarm goes off and your instinct is to just burrow right back under the covers.
Yeah.
But if you count down from 5 and then like physically throw those covers off, you're essentially like you're intercepting that stay cozy response.
Yeah.
And you force yourself into action.
So it's like tricking my brain into doing what I know I should do.
It's more like retraining your brain.
Okay.
You're creating a new pattern, a new habit of taking action instead of giving in to, procrastination or fear.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about those bigger challenges?
Yeah.
The ones that like feel truly daunting.
Mm-hmm.
Can a simple countdown really help with those?
That's where the applications of the 5-second rule get really interesting.
Okay.
Mel Robbins argues that you can use this for like, pursuing your passions, mending relationships, even improving your health, both physical and mental.
Okay, those are some pretty big claims.
Yeah.
Can you give me like a specific example?
Mm-hmm.
Something that like really shows how this rule can be used for more than just waking up on time.
There's this amazing story in the book about a guy named Charlie.
Okay.
And he lost, get this, 176 pounds.
Oh, wow.
By using the 5-second rule in his like weight loss journey, he decided he was going to drink green juice every day for over a year, even when he didn't feel like it.
Wow.
He would, hit that mental countdown and just chug it down.
Mm-hmm.
That's some serious commitment.
Wow. 176 pounds. That's like serious commitment. I guess if it can help someone stick to a green juice regimen,
right,
it could probably work for other habits too.
The point is the 5-second rule helps you override those feelings of I don't want to.
Right.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
Whether it's a, healthy habit, a big life decision, that countdown becomes like a bridge between, your intention and your actual action.
I'm starting to see how powerful this could be. It's like having a secret weapon against my own like self-sabotaging tendencies.
Exactly.
But it also makes me wonder, can it be used for anything?
Yeah.
Is there ever a time when it's not a good idea to use the 5-second rule?
That's a great question. And it leads to like some important, nuances about the rule.
Okay.
It's not about like blindly acting on every single impulse you have.
Right.
There are definitely times when it's really important to like pause, think things through carefully.
Right.
But the 5-second rule, it's really designed to help you overcome that initial hurdle of hesitation.
Okay.
That moment when, fear or procrastination is about to derail you.
So it's about recognizing those moments when your instinct is to act on something positive,
yes,
something that aligns with your goals, and then using that countdown to push past that initial resistance.
Precisely. It's all about like taking control of your actions
Yeah.
and choosing courage over comfort.
I am feeling inspired to try this out.
Yes.
But before I go around counting down from 5 for everything,
right,
let's dive a little deeper into the specifics.
Okay.
What are like some of the most common and maybe even unexpected ways that people are using this technique to create real change in their lives? And how can our listeners identify those areas where the 5-second rule could make the biggest impact for them?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
And they lead us to like some of the most fascinating and practical applications of this rule.
Okay.
It's not just about taking action.
Right.
It's about understanding how to use this technique strategically to like manage your thoughts, your emotions, and ultimately, your whole approach to life.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
This is starting to feel less like a simple trick and more like a powerful tool for personal growth.
Exactly.
I can't wait to unpack this further and discover how our listeners can start applying this technique to their own, unique challenges and goals.
Yeah.
But first, let's take a quick pause so everybody can process what we've covered so far and get ready for the next level of this deep dive into the 5-second rule.
Sounds good. So, let's pick up where we left off exploring those like practical applications of the 5-second rule.
Yep.
One area where it really shines is in like managing worry and anxiety, something we all struggle with, from time to time.
Oh, absolutely. My mind can like totally spiral with what ifs sometimes, especially when it comes to like work deadlines or, big decisions.
Yeah.
How does the 5-second rule like help with those mental gymnastics?
It's all about catching those, those anxious thoughts early and like redirecting your focus.
Okay.
So the moment you feel that familiar worry creeping in, hit that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown.
Okay.
And ask yourself 2 simple but super powerful questions.
Okay.
Mel Robbins calls these like worry busters, right?
Okay.
What am I grateful for right now? And what do I want to remember about this moment?
It sounds so straightforward.
Yeah.
But I can see how it would like shift your perspective.
Yeah.
Instead of dwelling on the negative, you're forcing yourself to acknowledge like the good.
It's not even just like a feel-good trick either.
Right.
There's actually a biological basis for this.
Oh, okay.
Feeling gratitude. That triggers the release of dopamine, which we associate with like pleasure and reward, right?
Yeah.
So you're literally rewiring your brain to focus on the positive.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So I'm not just managing my anxiety. I'm actually training my brain to be like more positive over time.
You got it. And that same principle, you can apply it to managing anxiety in general.
Okay.
Remember, anxiety and excitement, they often trigger the same like physiological responses.
Right.
Increased heart rate, sweaty palms, those butterflies in your stomach.
Yeah.
The difference is how we interpret those sensations.
So it's like that classic example of public speaking, right?
Yeah.
Some people see it as this like terrifying ordeal.
Exactly.
While others get like an adrenaline rush from, being in the spotlight.
Exactly. And the 5-second rule can help you reframe that whole experience.
Okay.
So instead of letting those physical sensations just like fuel your anxiety, you can choose to interpret them as excitement.
Okay.
Like a sign that you're about to do something challenging and, potentially amazing.
Like flipping the script on your own, like inner dialogue.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh no, I'm freaking out. You're saying, bring it on. I'm ready for this.
That's the power of mindset.
Yeah.
And the 5-second rule helps you actively cultivate that can-do attitude, even when it feels really difficult.
Now, I know we talked about procrastination earlier, and I got to admit, that's a big one for me. I can find like a million ways to avoid tackling those tasks that feel, overwhelming or just unpleasant.
Yeah.
Does the 5-second rule offer any strategies for like breaking through that procrastination barrier.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
One of the most effective techniques that Mel Robbins describes is what she calls the future you exercise.
Okay.
And it's all about, harnessing the power of visualization to motivate action.
Okay, I'm all about visualization techniques, but how does this one work? Mm-hmm. Do I need to meditate on my goals or something?
No, it's actually much simpler than that.
Okay.
Here's the prompt, right?
Okay.
Imagine yourself a year from now, having achieved the goal you're currently procrastinating on. Mm-hmm. What does that future version of you do differently today to make that success a reality?
So instead of getting bogged down in the present moment, I'm tapping into the wisdom of my future self.
Yeah.
I like that.
The research on this is fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Studies show that when people can vividly imagine their future selves, they're way more likely to make choices in the present that align with those long-term aspirations.
So it's like creating a roadmap to your goals, guided by the wisdom of the person you're striving to become.
Exactly.
That's a really powerful concept. But what about those times when procrastination isn't about fear or overwhelm, but just a lack of motivation?
Yeah.
What if I just don't feel like doing something?
Right.
Even if I know it's important.
That's where the 5-second rule can be a real game changer, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's not about forcing yourself to feel motivated.
Okay.
It's about acting despite the lack of motivation.
Okay.
Remember, action often precedes motivation.
So it's like that old adage, just do it.
Exactly. Yeah. By taking that initial step, even if it's, a small one, you often trigger this whole cascade of positive effects, right? Okay. You start building momentum, you gain a sense of accomplishment, and that can actually fuel your motivation to keep going.
So it's like breaking that inertia, right? Once I get started, it's actually easier to keep moving forward.
That's the idea. And the 5-second rule, it just provides that initial push, that spark of energy to overcome the resistance and get the ball rolling.
I'm starting to see how this seemingly simple technique can have such a profound impact on so many different areas of life. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about the 5-second rule being especially powerful in relationships. Can you elaborate on that? How can using a countdown actually help us build, stronger connections with the people we care about?
That's a great question. And it gets to the heart of what makes the 5-second rule so impactful. It's not just about achieving your goals or conquering fears. It's about living with intention, right? About aligning your actions with your values. And that includes nurturing those all important relationships.
So it's about being more mindful and proactive in our interactions with our loved ones.
Exactly. Think about those times, right?
Yeah.
When you've had that gut feeling to reach out to somebody, to, express your appreciation, to, maybe have a difficult conversation, but then hesitation crept in and you talked yourself out of it.
Oh, I've been there so many times. It's like that little voice in your head saying, oh, it's awkward, or they probably don't want to hear from me.
Yeah. And that's where the 5-second rule can be a real lifesaver.
Okay.
Literally in some cases.
Wow.
Mel Robbins shares, a very personal story in the book about using the rule to push past her fear and ask her dad this really difficult question before he underwent brain surgery.
Oh, wow.
It was a conversation that she almost avoided having, but it ended up being one of the most meaningful and beautiful moments they ever shared.
Wow. That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most important conversations are the ones we're most hesitant to have. And, by choosing courage over comfort, we can create deeper, more authentic connections with the people who matter most.
It's about recognizing that life is short, right?
Yeah.
And we often regret the things we don't say more than the things we do.
Right.
And the 5-second rule gives us that extra nudge, to act on those impulses, to connect, to express our love, to mend broken bridges, and to create memories that will last a lifetime.
I think this is a great point to pause and let our listeners absorb all of this. We've covered a lot of ground. From, managing anxiety to boosting productivity to strengthening relationships. And we've seen how the 5-second rule can be this surprisingly versatile tool for creating positive change in all these areas.
It is.
But we're not done yet. We have more inspiring stories to share.
Yes.
And even more like practical tips to help you unlock the power of the 5-second rule in your own life.
Okay.
We'll be right back to wrap things up and leave you with some, final thought-provoking insights.
All right, so we're back, and before the break, we were talking about how this 5-second rule can help us be more courageous in our relationships, like having those, tough conversations, expressing our appreciation. But I'm curious, can this same principle apply to other areas where fear kind of holds us back? What about those, big life-changing decisions?
Absolutely. In fact, Mel Robbins, she argues that the 5-second rule is especially powerful when it comes to making those big leaps, whether it's, switching careers or starting a business or pursuing a long-held dream. She really emphasizes that, often our biggest regrets aren't the things we did, but the things we didn't do.
Right. Those missed opportunities, those chances we were just too afraid to take.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get stuck in that analysis paralysis, right? Just weighing all the pros and cons and ultimately, letting fear just dictate our choices.
Exactly. And that's where the 5-second rule can be a total game changer.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that moment of hesitation, that should I or shouldn't I?
Yeah.
And using the countdown to shift from overthinking to action.
Yeah.
It's about, trusting your gut and to taking that first step, even if it feels scary.
So it's not about making reckless decisions.
Yeah.
It's about overcoming that initial paralysis and taking a chance on yourself.
Precisely. And one of the most inspiring examples in the book is the story about a woman named Sarah.
Okay.
And she used the 5-second rule to make this radical career change. So she had been working as a banker for years, but she just felt unfulfilled, she wasn't living up to her potential or anything.
Right.
And one day she saw this flyer for a pottery class.
Okay.
And she felt this urge to sign up, but then that, that familiar hesitation kicked in. I'm too old for this, she thought. What am I even thinking?
I can totally relate to that feeling of self-doubt creeping in, right?
Yeah.
It's our own worst critic lives inside our heads.
But Sarah decided to fight back, right?
Okay.
She counted down from 5, grabbed her phone, and registered for the class.
Okay.
And that single, seemingly insignificant act changed her life.
Wow.
She discovered this passion for pottery that she never knew she had.
Wow.
And within a year, she quit her banking job and started her own pottery business.
Wow, that's incredible. It really shows how one small act of courage can just set off a chain reaction.
Right.
Leading to unexpected and fulfilling outcomes.
Oh. And that's the beauty of the 5-second rule.
Yeah.
It's not about having all the answers or guaranteeing success or anything. It's about embracing the unknown, trusting the journey, and allowing yourself to be surprised by what unfolds when you dare to, step outside your comfort zone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways our listeners should remember about the 5-second rule? What's the essence of this technique, and how can they start incorporating it into their own lives?
Okay, here are the essential things to keep in mind, right?
Okay.
First, remember that the 5-second rule, it's a tool for action.
Okay.
It's not a magic wand.
Right.
It's not about, eliminating fear or anxiety altogether.
Right.
It's about acknowledging those feelings and choosing to act despite them.
So it's about embracing that feeling of discomfort, right?
Yeah.
As a sign that you're pushing yourself to grow and evolve.
Exactly. And second, remember that, consistency is key.
Okay.
The more you practice using the 5-second rule, the more natural it will become.
Right.
Start with, small challenges, getting out of bed when the alarm goes off, speaking up in a meeting, reaching out to a friend you haven't talked to in a while. As you gain confidence, then you can gradually tackle bigger and bolder goals, right?
And I think it's important to emphasize, it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about, making progress. Right?
Yeah.
There will be times when you hesitate.
Of course.
Times when you stumble. But the key is to keep practicing, keep pushing yourself, and keep believing in your own ability to create positive change.
Absolutely. And finally, remember that the 5-second rule is like this amazing tool for self-discovery.
Okay.
It's about uncovering your own courage, your own potential, and, your own unique path to a more fulfilling life.
So here's a final, thought-provoking question for our listeners to ponder.
Okay.
What's one thing you've been putting off? One dream you've been hesitant to pursue? One conversation you've been, avoiding?
Mm-hmm.
What if you use the 5-second rule to take that first step today?
Imagine the possibilities that might unfold.
Yeah.
The 5-second rule is just a reminder that you have the power to create the life you desire.
Yeah.
One courageous decision at a time.
And who knows, maybe that countdown is all it takes to, unlock a whole new level of confidence, success, and fulfillment. So keep exploring.
Yeah.
Keep pushing yourself and keep diving deep.
Absolutely.
Until next time, fellow adventurers.